So there's one step that I haven't explained yet in this little series on how I finish a small painting. And this step is applying the clear leveling gel to the surface um, of any painting. So as I'm working, I'm tending to build up the surfaces. I'm using a paint on a brush. I have collaged paper. I have used the collage with paint technique. So generally the surfaces tend to get very built up and kind of uneven. So what I like to do to finish off the piece is just to give it a really nice flat surface finish. And I find that this for me helps just to kind of cohere the surface of the painting a little bit better. So how I achieve this kind of flat finish is by applying clear leveling gel. It's a golden product, and this is a very giant container. It does come in smaller containers. I do all the pouring and everything inside a box because as it's drying, I want to make sure that it's going to be drying free from any dust or particles that could get embedded in the gel as it's drying. So after I'm done the pour, I'm going to close up the box. I'm going to let it sit for about 24 hours. I'll probably be applying 2-3 layers of the clear leveling gel. You have to sneak up to this smooth surface. You don't want to apply a really thick layer of the gel, because what can happen as it dries is that cracks can form and it's hard to get rid of those cracks. I'm also going to use rubbing alcohol. So the rubbing alcohol is good to spray over the surface after you've poured the layer of the gel. It will just help release any air bubbles. I'm also going to use a microfiber cloth, and you want something to be able to clean the surface of your paintings just to make sure there are no pieces of dust or hair that will get embedded. You want things to be as clean as possible. Oh, and the other thing you're going to need is something to spread the gel with. And I use this rubber spatula thing. You could also use a credit card. The reason why I use this is because it just gives you a really nice smooth finish. And also if you use a brush, you can run the risk of getting brush hairs caught up inside the gel, which could be hard to dig out as your gel is drying. So I usually wear gloves for this process. So I'll just put some gloves on. I wouldn't use this clear leveling gel for anything bigger. This is a 12 by 12. As you start painting larger, it's harder and harder to use the clear leveling gel only because it is a little bit finicky as you're using it. So this is about the maximum size that I use the clear leveling gel. The other thing that I wanted to mention too is that before I do the clear leveling gel, I will paint with a layer of gloss gel medium. So I just use gloss gel medium. You've seen me use it to stick the painted parchment paper on the surface of a painting, but you can also kind of use it as you're working on a painting just to give you a place to start again from. So if you like to kind of work backwards and forwards, using the gloss medium just as a layer between your layers is a good habit. So this has been coated with gloss medium, and I'm now ready to apply the clear leveling gel. So let's now do the pour. Okay, here we go. Now you don't need a lot, just about there. That's probably perfect. You have to be careful when you are pouring the gel that you don't pour too thick, because if your layer of clear leveling gel is too thick, it can cause cracks. So now it's just a matter of spreading the gel so that it's going to be covering every inch of the surface. It's very glossy, so you can see as you kind of move it around in the light what has been covered and what hasn't been covered. And you do want to work quickly because this product does start drying as soon as it hits the air. And you want to just be fast and deliberate. The longer you mess around, the more likely you can get air bubbles trapped in the surface, which you want to avoid. See, there is an air bubble there. So I just want to spread a nice thin layer over the entire surface of the painting. Okay, so this is probably pretty good. As I'm moving it around the light, I can see that there are no like really uneven bits, and like I said, this will level, so you don't have to be too concerned if it's not 100% level as you spread it. So this looks like it's all covered. So the big air bubbles you kind of want to attack with a pin. And then the smaller air bubbles we can get with the alcohol spray. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set it in this box to dry, and I am going to give it a little spray with the alcohol spray. Just a couple of sprays. So give it like a good final inspection. I'm just going to now let it dry in the box. So I'll just close the box up. And I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to let it dry for about 24 hours and then I'll check on it. Okay, so it's been about 24 hours and I'm just going to take a peek at the panel that I coated with the clear leveling gel. Okay, so I can see from just by looking at it that it is dry, and I can kind of see some opacity over in this area. Because there is a little bit of opacity there, I'm just going to let it sit for another day. You do want to make sure that the layers are perfectly dry before you go and add on another layer, just so that the layers adhere really well together. Okay, so I'm going to leave the box open because at this point nothing is going to get really stuck into the surface. So I'll leave it open and tomorrow I will do the second layer. Okay, so it's been about 48 hours now, and I am seeing that this painting is really, really dry. There's no opacity on the surface, so I think I'm ready to go ahead and do another coat. Okay, so it's the next day and this painting is pretty dry. So what I'm going to do now is the final coat. So this will be the third coat. It's already looking, whoops. It's already looking very smooth. But I still see a few ridges on the surface, so I think I'm just going to give it one more final coat. I'm pretty confident that after this third coat, the surface will be nice and smooth and ready for the final steps in finishing. Okay, so here we go, round 3. Okay, so it's the next day and I'm checking on the painting here that I have coated with a third coat, and it's a little stuck but from what I can see, the surface is really nice and smooth. So hopefully that is picked up by the camera. So it looks pretty good. There are inevitably a few little air bubbles on the surface, but when I buff it with a 3M scrubbing pad, they won't even really be that noticeable. There are no real obvious grooves or anything on the surface, and it just reads as a really nice flat and level plane. Sometimes for the third coat you do want to wait and give it a good solid few days of drying time. You just want to make sure that you don't cause any impressions on the gel if it hasn't completely hardened. So what I like to do is take this glossy surface to a more matte finish by using a 3M scrubbing pad and buffing the surface so I can just take off the high shine. So that's the step that I will do next, and then after that is a layer of cold wax. That wraps up how I finish these small collage paintings. So hopefully that was helpful, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions.